Hello and welcome to Mostly Minnesota Music Podcast Edition. I am Ann Tracy. I'm excited today to have Mike Terrell with us. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Fine. How are you?
I am fantastic.
That's great. That's great to hear. Yes, because I know we want to talk a little bit. I know we want to talk a lot about Fires of Demark, but you have a long illustrious music career. You've done a lot of different things.
Illustrious. I don't know about that adjective, but yes, it's been a long career. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, just tell for folks who are unfamiliar with you, just tell us a little bit about it.
Mm-hmm. I started doing music, like in high school with everyone else. And when I was 14, 15, started playing guitar and writing music. I had a little computer program that would let me compose different instruments. So I was able to kind of learn how to do music that way. And I would teach myself Pink Floyd records, like Dark Side of the Moon. I used to take each one of those instrument tracks and like, oh, it's the saxophone. It sounds like this. And I'd find the right notes for it. And I just do it all out. So I learned how all the songs got taken apart. That was my kind of dive into composition. And I had a band teacher that was really supportive and I composed some pop songs for the marching band and fun stuff like that. At my first job, I met some guys that were working there and fell into a band with them because they were looking for a new guitar player. And that was a mildly successful band that we were signed to a record label up in the cities called Fuzzy Slippers. And we played that till about almost 23 or so. And as bands naturally fade away, but music just kind of stuck with me.
That's great. That's great. I was so excited to learn that you had a song on This American Life.
Yeah, that was out of nowhere. That was with this band that kind of got me back into music. After I left that one band, I stopped making music for about 6 years. And just kind of did the normal work stuff after college. And then a friend of mine asked if I was looking for someone to play bass. And I'm like, I don't really know, or I've never played bass in a band, but sure, why not? We got together and started writing some songs. And after that, I started doing the Fires of Demark stuff. And that band had been done for a while. And all of a sudden, one of the songs that the two of us did was on This American Life, just out of nowhere. No clue why.
I just thought that I'm a huge fan. I had to call my sister right away. I'm like, someone I'm talking to had on This American Life.
It was just out of nowhere. It was so great. And my mind kept trying to hit where did it come from? Like, what was this? How did they find this from the story that they were doing? But I never found an answer. It was just really exciting.
Well, if you had to, and we'll just say, because the theme or the story or whatever was state of emergency, and it was done, a year and a half ago, like done, April of 2020 or something.
Yeah.
And it sounded like they were really talking to healthcare workers at the hospitals. And your song, When This Is Done, how do you think that connection was made?
I don't know. Maybe it was just kind of like finding like when this whole thing was done, if someone kind of caught on that lyric or something. But it was a very pleasant surprise.
I loved that. I love that sort of thing.
Yeah,
that's great.
Right?
Well, that kind of takes us up to Fires of Demark, and you guys have put out 2 albums.
3 EPs, now, 2. And a whole bunch of stuff. I'm a compulsive writer, so this Relativity album is actually the first one I'm doing where I'm kind of sharing it with other people. I've always been a closet person, so I'm in my studio now. Where I'm sitting here is where I just make all this music, and I've just been putting it up on Spotify myself. And but now it's just starting to get a big collection here, and this next album is kind of taking that next extra step.
I love the album. Not to totally age myself, but I lived in London late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
So
Hey, Sheila's here.
Oh, hey. Awesome. So I can hear what sounds to me like a lot of some Charlatans, some Happy Mondays and Spiral Carpets and some of that mixed with, I'm a big, huge fan of Drone Not Drones.
That's a new one for me. What was that?
Oh, Drone Not Drones.
Oh, yes. Okay, sorry.
Because it's a concert, it's not a band. Yeah. So somewhere in between, you guys are somewhere in between that. And I just love that mix.
Yes, thank you. This album was really, you kind of nailed on the head with our period on the head. I really got into Remain in Light by the Talking Heads. Like that was just my big obsession. I got David Byrne's book, How Music Works, and just fell in love with that book during COVID. I think I read it for like the third time during COVID, but it was like taking notes and all of the ledges and everything like that.
Nice.
And he talked about on there how they made that album Remain in Light, and how they got it together was they just put down write a really funky bass line and just repeat it forever, and then they'd record the whole band playing and then go, oh, this is the best parts. So we just copied that idea for this album where we would loop a song for like an hour, and all of these musicians I kind of brought together for this would just play off this riff. And then I spent the winter of COVID as taking my favorite parts, going, oh, that little 8 measures right there, that's gonna be the hook of this song now. And it was just kind of taking that Remain in Light idea and kind of taking it up a level.
That's fantastic. When did you start it? When were you working with the other musicians?
That would be October 2000. Oh, was it 19? 20. I'm sorry, 20. I'm sorry. October 2020. So like right kind of when we thought maybe it was gonna maybe be done, you know.
We were so hopeful.
But ended up being like when the first wave was kind of ending, and then that first wave was amping back up before vaccines and everything like that. It was, yeah, but it was an amazing getaway for that project. We rented out a Frank Lloyd Wright house for 4 days and just kind of camped out there to record it all.
And I have seen some of the videos, which I think are not out,
Yeah.
but clearly they are filmed there, and they're fantastic.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
They captured the sound of it, captures the era of the design so well.
Yeah, it was really inspiring. Like we just put microphones in the room, and we just set up in the just a lounge area, like a kind of like a little library nook. We just kind of set up in that corner, and it just sounded so great in there, and lots of inspiration. I think all of our albums are going to be done like that now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're house hunting now for the next one.
Oh, perfect. That's I'll show you. I grew up in a very Art Deco house in St. Paul. I'll have to give you the neighborhood because it's just a little bit of the same. We had the bar in the basement and that kind of chill vibe, you know.
Yeah, love it.
Was very, yeah. I want to ask you a little bit about some of the songs. It's fun to hear how they were made, because just going through the song titles, I was assuming that it was I don't want to say pure COVID, but I mean it's, you know, titles like "And It Never Ends." I mean,
yes. So we started, the concept of it was actually the thematic concept was created actually before COVID started. We kind of settled on because we had this repetitive nature and this hypnotic thing that we wanted to go for, it just kind of naturally started being about time. And so we just started all these songs about time and got really into a rabbit hole with it. So it ended up becoming like the Relativity album. So we just kind of leaned into it. And the first opening, or the first tracks of the song have a poem to them. And when you read the titles together, it's like time will wear you down, and it goes on, and it never ends. So start living outside of time. And as a concept of the album, that first half of that during those songs are very mechanical and driving and hitting, and it gets after that stop, you have to start living outside of time. The times of the songs kind of dissolve a bit and become more spacey as it comes and falls apart towards the end. It's
what I like about it is, and I this isn't my phrase, I think it's somewhere some of your literature about the relentlessness of time.
Yeah.
But it's each song is very different.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like waking up every day of the hardcore COVID stuff, where some days you'd be like, oh, I didn't have to take a kid to work, and it's nice out, and I'm gonna go for a walk. And the next day you'd wake up and go, holy Christ. You know?
Right. And that's perfect. Like you said that too, that like almost that worn down of the monotony. That was actually the headspace of the like I kind of try to make little characters. Again, David Byrne, David Bowie stuff. For every album, I kind of make a little kind of character for myself. And this one, was very much that in my mind, I was like a worn down Vegas singer who's doing this stuff every day. I'm like, how do I get into that mindset? Just because I wanted to level out my voice and not be as excited in the song or in this album. I have very whispery in it. And so kind of to lean into that, and it worked perfectly for the mood of COVID too.
Well, again, because I've seen the video, I did the props and the costumes for the video.
Yeah.
Nail that theme.
My really good friend made that. They're an artist here in town, Amarama Art. And I just one day out of nowhere sent them a text that said disco ball suit jacket and just a bunch of emojis coming across. So, and it's been so fun to wear at shows. I like how it bounces off of it. It's great.
It's gorgeous.
And just to juxtapose it with my trying to be super calm and like just like that worn down character with that disco jacket. I love it.
Well, listening to the music and watching the videos too,
Mhm.
it's there are times where you feel like this is 4 a.m. at the party.
Yeah.
And there are times you
Right?
feel like this is Thursday of the party that started on Saturday.
Yeah, right? There you go.
Just-
Perfect. Yeah, because that was a lot of stuff was filmed on like day 3 of us at in the studio space recording music. So it's probably fitting.
It's very fun, and I'm gonna say I admittedly I've never stayed for the whole Drone Not Drones, but I've certainly done 10
Yeah.
hours. You know, I love that kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
fantastic. I thought here's a month ago I did a 12-hour walk, and I thought, damn it, I wish I had this.
Oh, hey, nice.
I mean, it was, you know, magnetic fields were good too, but I would have listened to this for the second half. You know, it was,
there you go.
yeah,
I love it.
there's something really, even, I mean, there are some songs that have an anxious feel to them, you know, but even if you listen to them, you're like, I could dance to this. This is cathartic.
One of our rules for it too was that we wanted to push a bubble a lot. I said, never pop the bubble. In the past, I would, pop the bubble and get that nice headbang part, but like we're never popping that bubble in this album. We can push and push and push, but just to deflate it, and it creates this weird tension. And then it like the album almost never resolves until that piano part at the end, and it just feels so light when that grand piano part takes you out.
The piano is nice, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a negentropy.
Yes.
Negentropy.
It's the opposite of entropy, negentropy.
Nice.
Coming together, where entropy is the falling apart of everything.
I listened to it, and most of the songs are quite long. I mean, you've got a couple like 8-minute songs and I'm listening to it, and I'm, you know, and it more than any of the other songs just remind me of Drone Not Drones. It's got that drone to it, the mechanic, and then it ends. And I can't even tell you how jarring that was to me.
Well, that one should lead right into Time Will Wear You Down. So it goes right into it.
Here is where I was at the disadvantage, because I'm listening to it in a different format that most people would. I'm listening to it from Google Docs or something, you know, but it was.
Yeah, that was like something that was actually really that song was almost lost, because that was me warming up my synthesizer to play that Time Will Wear You Down song. And a year and a half later, as I was mixing down the album for Time Will Wear You Down, I'm like, oh, there's more to this. And I pulled it farther and farther, my sound bar farther left. I'm like, oh, that sounds really cool. It's a nice warm up album.
It just takes me back. And of course, the theme of Drone Not Drones is that drone is meant to go through the entire 28 hours or whatever the festival. So as I said, it was just so in a way that I found to be very compelling. You
might want to check out I did a project, they're moment songs on my Spotify playlist. One of them is a 45-minute drone song like that actually was commissioned from a Mayo Clinic yoga class, a restorative yoga class. They contacted me and said they wanted some original music. So I took the class and took a 45-minute kind of thing, and I like recorded the fans in the room so I could like move because I was like the loudest sound in there, so I could like affect the sound waves inside that room too, and ended up putting it up there because it's just a really relaxing 45-minute meditative piece.
All right. So what is the name again?
A moment.
A moment.
And then that one would be, I can't remember what I classified that. I did them with classical title, or like classical music titles. So like number one, suite one. I can't remember what I had that one titled as, but it's the 45-minute long one.
Well, and that does me just to ask you some about the instruments that are used here. I mean, I said we talked a little bit about the keyboard. There's one where it sounds, there's a saxophone, and see if I can
Yep.
Find my notes on it. And then there's one that it's got to be a Fisher Price xylophone. I mean, it's
My Glockenspiel.
Is that what it? Okay.
Glockenspiel. Yes. There's a lot of Chris Kostelik, who plays under the name Model. He did a lot of the modular synth stuff. Like he has this setup where there's like both him and my partner Sheila, my wife Sheila, both have modular synthesizers, which are just weird computer things with wires and knobs that you spin to make it all go bleep bloop. And so that was a lot of the stranger sounds you hear, as like them creating that stuff. And then just a lot of 80s synthesizers, 80s and 70s synthesizers. Like that was a big one. And this album was full of an 808 drum machine, which was one of the most popular drum machines from late 80s hip hop. And it's there's just a sound to it. It's just like you can't, and then taking it from an element that's not normally in, to where bringing it from an instrument that was usually used in hip hop from the 80s to this fitting in with all these other rich retro instruments we're using. It's really interesting, and it was really cool sound.
It is. I just love the songs on so many. It was this. Well, the first song that I listened to, and again, and even while I was doing it, I thought I should be listening to this in order. But you're doing too.
Yeah.
I can only access it
should.
the way I can access it. So it was but Start Living Outside Time. That was one of, and I watched the videos first just to get a flavor. But that one was the one that I just sounded so much like the Charlatans to me, which was one of those, late 80s kind of.
Mm-hmm.
I still listen to it anytime I'm in an airplane. You've got music for different.
Yeah.
And I thought, awesome. Well, I'm settling in. This is going to be great.
Yeah, I love playing with older sounds in a modern setting. Like that's my I'm just the music I listen to the most is like the 67 to 69 music, when it got really experimental and just stranger stuff. And a lot of that mixing, when people would experiment with the mixing more, like where to put instruments in the soundscape, and that just by moving where your guitar is or where the drum is can all of a sudden make it sound like it's from the late 80s, where everything's kind of placed in a very specific spot now when you go to sound engineering schools.
I'm picturing that in my head. That would be, I'm trying to think of what was is it Jean-Michel Jarre, something when I was a kid that you'd listen to and you could, it sounded like it was, this is great radio. It sounded like it was to this, but went from one ear to the other. It sounded like an airplane going over or something like that.
I do a lot of stuff with that. And then also looking at the modern aspects of like binaural beats. Have you ever heard of that phenomenon?
I would love to hear more.
Okay. It's this weird science phenomenon where if you have two beats and one's at one sounds at, I'll just do some easy math, 100 hertz, and one sounds at 110 hertz, they would cancel each other out and then create a 10 hertz sound, which is essentially what you want to do is create a sound that's in the certain wavelengths of like beta waves, alpha waves in your brain. And people make relaxing music for that. If you go into like YouTube or even on Spotify, there's a lot of binaural beat stuff that's supposed to actually put you into a relaxed state. It's a really interesting aspect. So I'm like, okay, so essentially it's just the left ear and the right ear are slightly out of tune from each other, is how they recreated that. I'm like, what would happen if I did that in actual dance music or whatever? And so I have that aspect too. So each ear is kind of slightly different too, to kind of, and I don't know, I don't know if it's just a placebo effect, but it feels fun.
All right, now I'm gonna listen to it in headphones because I
Yeah.
like that. I like when it's something interesting like that, and it's
Yeah. I play a lot. I play around with a lot of stuff like that. Because why not, right? I like to see the whole like the producer first. Like I see the whole sonic soundscape and as like a painting that I can kind of fill in with different sounds and everything, rather than just the standard mix.
well, I was gonna ask you, and I'm gonna just alter this question a little bit.
Yeah,
You
of
know, how
course.
much of it is art and how much of it is science? How, you know, it's how much
Hmm.
are you thinking about the equation of it, and how much are you looking at the
Oh, okay.
colors? You know
I
what I
like
mean?
that. So that's a question I've asked myself for a long time, and I think I've figured it out. So it's a balance of the two. Like I told you how we recorded this album was completely in a completely creative flow state. So no thinking at all. Don't worry about the stuff. Just find what feels good. We never talk about what notes we're playing. Never talk about key we're playing in. Um, I take a kind of a concept like modal jazz, where each person goes, or you have like, oh, you can play like these 3 notes or 4 notes, and you play these 4 notes or 5 notes, and then as we move around, we're going to create new chords that will make interesting things. So but when we're recording and writing, we're not it's especially myself, I go in a complete flow state. It's not until like the next day when I sit down on it that I'm like, okay, I'm going to start dissecting this whole thing and tearing this apart, and then that's when that science element comes in. Because yeah, I love that part of it. Like, why does it make you feel this way? Why does this give me chills here and everything like that? How can I make you feel more tense?
You do a good job. I mean, I in the best of ways, but
Yeah.
it's fun to hear you talk about that and talk about kind of when you got started pulling
Hmm.
apart the songs and, you
Yeah.
know,
Because I'm
recreating
already
Pink Floyd.
I'm working on the next album always. And I think I have 105 songs in the playlist. Uh, so now I'm not like, and I had to now the science part will come out and go like, hey, these ones kind of work together. Oh, I could get a theme off this. And after my last album, Interference, that one I got really into story circles, like Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey,
Yep.
and seeing how I could take those elements and add them into a song. So that's also another checklist that I go through for my songs and my albums.
And
Yeah,
with something like that, does the hero's journey, does something like that,
yeah,
does that come to you after you've listened to what you've done, or do you
yes.
think, okay,
So then I'm like, it needs more of an impact here. You know, this is we need to cross a threshold. Oh, this the meeting of the goddess is taking a little too long, you know, for the song. I needed to go, or you know, and this needs to happen faster, and we need to come back to the home triumphant. Oh, that journey was too short. I didn't get a good feel of triumph at the end, like stuff like that, and elongating and shorting stuff, and
you're
yeah,
just sort of doing a whole symphony, a whole orchestral symphony
yes,
with different tools.
yes, yes, very much so.
That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
I think
But
that's fantastic.
hopefully the goal is that the average listener doesn't notice that it's still pop music in a way.
Oh,
You know, like, so like that's the balance, you know, because I'm still a sucker for a good hook.
I could see that. Yeah. Yeah. I could, yeah. I see what you're saying now. I mean, it's, well, and there is something about something that, I mean, some songs they just strike you like this right away.
Mhm.
And there are some songs that you listen to the first time you're like, or I even find the first time I might listen to a song, I think, God, I hate that. And then 2 weeks later, it's the one I can't stop listening
Yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah. I like to have a re-listenability in my stuff. Like I still have, like, literally this morning, the synth player, Chris, texted me and said, who the heck played on that part? What is that? I just heard it for the first time. Is that a goose? like, like he we pick up something new, like even when I'm listening to it now. It's amazing.
Well, there was one second I'm like, is that a theremin? But
Yeah.
let's,
It was something like a theremin, but not a
okay.
theremin exactly.
Yeah, I was that I did say ask about that because that was
I I would love. I've theremin is extremely difficult. If you ever get a chance to do a theremin, it's so hard. So, but I like to recreate the theremin sound using the synthesizers. It's a little easier.
I think that's great. I think now I don't play any musical instruments, but I think I had an opportunity to play a theremin
Yeah,
like a 4-year-old kicks a soccer ball. You know
I
what
know,
I mean?
right?
It just
Woo!
yeah. I mean, it looks so easy from off stage, isn't it? But those
That's
are
magic. It's
cool.
magic. It's magic right there. Move your hands by electricity and have it change and sing. It's nuts.
It is. I mean, that is the stuff of dreams when you kind of think of it in
Yeah,
that way,
right?
where it is that combination of the science and the art, which I think is
Hmm.
just that's a world that I like to live in,
Me too. Me too.
Yeah. So I know I have to transition a little bit to say, because you are playing on Thursday, November 4th
Yes.
at the entry.
I am at 7th Street entry with
Awesome.
Jay Havoc and the Misdemeanors.
Awesome.
Yes.
How do you do this for a live performance?
That is a wonderful question. So I had this big breakthrough because Fires of Denmark was always kind of like, I'm just making sounds. I don't want to have to worry about recreating this because that caused a lot of stress in me. And then one day I was like, oh, you don't need to recreate it. You just be a cover band of your album. I'm like, because in my brain, I can write a cover of anything. And I'm like, oh, so I just gotta write a cover of it. And so like the songs just kind of have more of a kind of more energetic feel. And each time, like I mentioned before, like that modal jazz aspect, we have that theme already here. Like those bass lines are always going to be there, and the drum beats are going to be there. But the rest of the musicians, including myself, we just riff off that for the show. So every performance is completely different.
Okay.
Yeah. It has so sometimes we'll take get like really heavy for some reason, and sometimes we do pop that bubble live. It's great. But yeah, we do a lot. I do a lot of live looping with it too. So I kind of do a lot of experimentation on stage and kind of recreate that surrealist soundscape live. It's kind of the goal.
Okay. I'm going to be there on Thursday, so I'm looking forward to seeing this. This will be.
It's an experience. So I'm excited for it. I always like to try to at least bring something unique and an experience for the audience. So it's the performer in me.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to that. I very much enjoy experimental music. John Cage, great. The stranger the better often is what I feel, but I always do wonder, and I've seen a lot. Used to go to a lot of noise shows, like a lot of that.
Yeah.
But I think that the level of trust that you have to have with the people on stage with you to kind of do that, to know that you're going to do something different every time is impressive.
It's that magic, that formula David Byrne gave me. It's like Western music needs to have, in Western music, we need to have a hook that your ear can go back to. And that's why we have choruses in our music. But if he just, like he said in the book, is like, if you just make that a bass line, that works for our ears. And so unlike if you go see a noise band, you'll miss that hook. Even if you had just a simple little repetitive line, that's what creates the ability to go everywhere else and play around the edges.
That makes perfect sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy hearing it, but
that book's amazing.
I know, and I'm like, all right, I think I might have to get that book just to find out, because
there's so much stuff in there that's just he's a genius. He's great.
All right. I am now gonna get that book. That's I'll have to ask if Sheila's there. Does she want to say anything, or
no? She snuck out.
Fair.
That's the thing with my backing band, is there's some of the most quiet people too, including our bass player. He goes by the name Bass Druid now. He's been my best friend. I've been making music with him since we first started learning around 14, and he's just a very private person, loves making music, loves playing music. But we found a solution early on or at that show or at the house because he was wearing his mask for COVID and everything. And he we decided to make a character for him. So we got like a wizard hat and like a shawl. And we created this character named the Bass Druid, who is driven by the groove and comes out of the woods just to lay down funky bass lines. And now for every photo shoot we've done and every music video, we've had a different person dress up as him. So he's at the video shoot and he's at the photo shoots, and one of our friends comes in and just plays his role as the Bass Druid.
It's kind of the opposite of Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah, right. It's great.
See where he isn't.
Yeah. And it's so fun. Like he'll be at shows just sitting in the corner reading a book, and like no one, I'm like, okay, time to go play. It's like, okay. He's the best. I love Nick so much.
Yeah, you must have a good time. I mean, it looked like you were having so much fun in the videos that I've seen in the music. As you said, I mean, if you're playing for hours together,
Oh yeah, like it's been a really, really tight group. And Nick Sampson, who's playing the drum machine, the 808 on there, he doesn't have any musician experience. He was just kind of, he's an engineer, and he's a good friend of ours. Like, hey, do you want to come in case anything breaks? You know, and but we ended up putting him on a drum machine, and his brain went right to it because it's like, oh, this makes sense. The lights are coming. If I push this, and his engineer mind just picked it right up. And someone who hasn't played drums before or doesn't know like normal rules for percussion, it's so fun to see how they just jump on the instrument and create these really unique beats. And same thing with my wife, Sheila. She only played like in orchestra in high school. And so she really doesn't have any music experience either. And getting her on this modular synthesizer instrument where she doesn't have a keyboard and she has to use her ears to find these sounds, it's really fun to have these new people kind of in the band. So I kind of settled on the name Technical Imperfections for it.
I like that. I like that because I always say it's the technical imperfections that makes you love the sweater that someone made for you.
Yeah, right, exactly.
You know, otherwise we can get the rest anywhere else. But yeah, those imperfections are. Oh, well, I'm super excited to go to see you on Thursday. I think it's one. I'm going to see how in the heck this cover band does.
My goal is to blow your mind.
Well, as I said, the album is so. I mean, it is so much fun because it's just it's the kind of album that if you spent the last 2 years in COVID flux, I think there'd be a familiarity to the feeling of it. But I think 20 years from now, when there will be people who don't really remember it, or they'll enjoy it on a different level.
Hopefully.
I was just gonna say, hopefully, for many reasons.
I'll still have my copy and I'll still put it out. Oh yeah, I remember that time.
Sit down, I got a story to play you. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Someone will listen to it.
Yeah. No, it's yes. Mike, thank you. Oh, for folks, I'll put this in the notes, but for folks who are listening, how can people find you online?
I got firesofdenmark.com is the main one. Bandcamp and Spotify are usually the greatest ones to kind of keep everything really organized, and a lot of stuff on YouTube. I make lots of videos and visual companions to my stuff, so there's a whole treasure trove in there.
Yeah, well, I'm excited for you to release some of the videos that you've got because they are just because the character alone is
it was a fun space.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that comes through very, very much so. So that's good. So we've got Relativity coming out with the show on November 4th, which is Thursday. So we'll get this up there, and we'll see you there. And thank you.
I'm going to correct you one thing though.
Oh,
the November 4th. If you come to the show, you can get the album early because it's coming out November 12th.
Ooh, even better.
So you have to come to a show to get it.
I like that.
Yeah,
that is some old school. It is like the 80s.
I even have bootleg cassette.
I was just thinking, If you can get First Avenue to give out free tickets on the way out, it would definitely be like the 80s. Go full retro.
I'll make a flyer that's just tickets.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
That would be little, QR codes to download different things. That would be awesome. Thank you, Mike. Thank you. I
thank
enjoyed the
you.
album. I super enjoyed talking to you, and I'm looking forward to Thursday.
Yeah, now dive into the album, listen front to back.
Yeah, that's my plan. Okay.
I'll see you later.